my first question goes to our senior Baraza. 15 years since the 2010 Constitution, how would you assess the realization of the Bill of Rights? Are there any rights that have been more implemented, or those ones which have been neglected? How would you assess the situation?
The Bill of Rights, which is the soul of our Constitution, and I should say I participated at the CKRC, and I chaired the thematic committee that shaped the Bill of Rights. So at 15 years, I would say we have made progress, considering where we came from. We came from a space where we had a Bill of Rights with very limited rights for Kenyans. As we may recall, we only had civil and political rights guaranteed under that old constitution. But now we have an expanded Bill of Rights that incorporates all the three generations of rights: the socio-economic, cultural, the civil, political, economic, and the environmental. I would say some of them have been reasonably realized, but some of them have not. So that I would say that it's work in progress. In terms of civil and political rights, we have guarantees for people's rights, political rights. And we have laws also which protect those rights. We come to socio-economic and cultural rights. Some are being realized. For example, I think these contested debates we are having about affordable housing, about share. Article 43 of the Constitution guarantees socio-economic rights. And therefore, the role of the state is to put in place mechanisms for realization of those rights. So I would say the move to have affordable housing would be a move towards realization of the socio-economic right of right to housing. Now, share, again, a very contested issue currently, is if you look at it, again, in the context of the guarantees under Article 43, it offers universal health care, and that is a guarantee under the Constitution, but I think it has challenges. I think challenges of implementation, challenges of corruption. Otherwise, I think it is a move, if implemented well, would make the right to health care affordable. We have had courts make very progressive judgments affirming the right, for example, to housing, the Mitchell case. And then water. When we talk about access to resources, access to services in conjunction with devolution, what we are hearing from people around the country is that now they can access water, now they can access certain services that were not accessible under the old constitution. So I would say, and if we look at education, I think since the promulgation of the Constitution, we had done very well in realizing the rights to education. Under the Kibaki administration, I think we did very well. And that's why we are recognized as a country that has very high levels of education. It's because of the guarantees of the new constitution, the 2010 constitution. Also, if we talk about the right to non-discrimination and equality, quite a bit has been achieved. If we look at the gender parity that existed prior to this constitution, in terms of men and women accessing power or holding positions of power, we have made progress. If you look at the judiciary, I think the judiciary is an institution that has done very well. Parliament, we still have problems because we have not even put in place the legislation for realization of the not more than 1/3 gender rule. So there we have a problem. Again, touching on the issue of inequality, I chair the task force on GBV, including femicide, and we have very high levels of GBV and very alarming rates of femicide because of inequalities and power imbalances. So that we still have that gap where women are facing the brunt of femicide because of inequality, because of discriminations, because of suffering under customary and patriarchal systems that negates the guarantees for equality, for human dignity, for the protection of both men and women under Article 29 of the Constitution. So I think overall we have had good progress, but we still have gaps to fill.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. Kimanthi, just to follow up, there have been issues which have been raised. For example, look at the education. There's issue of capitation, the delay in disbursing the capitation. There's the issue that has also haunted higher education with the universities, the new model funding, which has been seen as inefficient. If you look at the housing issue, also people complaining that they're actually being deducted money for houses which they will never actually own. So looking at our situation, how far should we go in trying to implement these rights, and has the path we have used to actually enforce them been the proper one?
Thank you. As Kenyans, when we gave the Constitution to ourselves, we envisioned a situation whereby these critical issues, education, health, would be provided for. Because as Kenyans, definitely from the taxes that we pay. But if you look at the current situation, let me begin from the perspective of the housing levy, for instance. That Kenyans, the working class, are deducted a lot of money. This money purportedly for construction of houses. But if you look at the interplays, if you look at what we are being told, that our money is being taken, the houses are constructed, but at the end of it, then we have to buy these houses. But the question is, what of a person like me who has an active mortgage, I'm paying for my own house, and yet I'm being deducted for another, project, a double taxation and all that. Illegalities upon illegalities. Two, if you look at the health sector, that I don't need to belabor, the point that Kenyans are suffering, Kenyans are dying for things which can be avoided. The reason being, money is being siphoned out, being taken, channeled to places where that money is not supposed to be there. But the bottom line is, where are the constitutional mechanisms that are supposed to protect that. Okay? That when the Auditor General says that the money channeled through the e-citizen cannot be accounted for, what does that mean? When we are told that the money taken from the universities that, cannot be properly be accounted for, who is mandated by the Constitution, to put a check on that? And therefore, for me, what is very critical is how can we then enforce the provisions of the Constitution? Because we're in agreement that our Constitution is one of the best in the world. But then again, it will be a misnomer to say that we have a very robust Constitution, but then again, it's not working for us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that response. So, Ms. Msengeti, in as a follow-up now, the existing institutions, be it the judiciary, the independent commissions, can you say that they're adequately enforcing their mandates in ensuring that the rule of law and enforcement of human rights is there?
I will say yes and no. Yes, in terms of when you look at the obvious things, like when you come to the judiciary and its independence and how it carries out its mandate, for the most part, we can see the judiciary has really tried in a number of ways. Trying to get access to justice to people out there. We even know their motto, social transformation through access to justice. However, there are still gaps to fill in terms of getting to people who don't have access maybe to attend online courts, or most Kenyans are living below the poverty line year after year. The reports come out, not much has changed. So how do you ensure that such people have access to the services provided by these independent institutions? We have institutions like the IEBC, which has been in the spotlight quite a bit, mostly because, one, is it existing, is it not? Two, when appointments are made, word goes around that whoever is being put there is being put to serve the interests of a few select. So as citizens, we have questions and doubts as to the independence of such an institution. But are we doing enough to push the government to actually ensure that these institutions and the people placed to run them are people who are for the citizens, who are bound by the provisions of the Constitution, and who will ensure the proper running and independence of an institution like IEBC? We had the new law, the conflict of interest law, that was passed recently, and it gave a lot of power to the EACC. Before that, we've seen so many instances where EACC says they've done investigations, they found out that, let's say, money went missing somewhere, some people are suspected or have been confirmed to be the ones who made this money disappear. But then they go to court, something happens, the case is withdrawn. Or, oh, we talked to them, they're going to pay back some amount that they stole. How is that justice? But then aside from that, with the new law, the EACC has so much more power when it comes to matters conflict of interest, and especially when it comes to politicians, because we've lacked a way to hold them accountable. This new law specifically provides for all the things that amount to conflict of interest, and says that EACC is like the primary institution to deal with matters conflict of interest, especially when it comes to politicians. Just like literally, is it 3 weeks just after that law was passed, and we said, okay, now EACC can be independent, they can actually exercise their power. What does the president do? He establishes the multi-agency team. The multi-agency team has a number of institutions listed as members, including the EACC. Now, in this multi-agency team, the one thing that really struck out is that you have a number of very heavy hitters, so to speak, all answering or reporting to the president. Let's talk about, first of all, there's a duplicity in the tasks being done. All these institutions independently are supposed to look into matters corruption, and then take it forward to the next step where the next institution comes in. Let's say the EACC investigates, the ODPP charges, that's how it goes. But then you have all of them brought together on top of the work they already do to counter corruption, come together to do the same work from a budget that we don't know where it's going to come from. So that's double taxation for Kenyans to fund them to do work that they're already supposed to do. And then on top of that, all of them to report to the president. That's too much power given to the president. He is the one who will be told, this one is corrupt. He's the one who will decide, prosecute this one, not this one. He's the one who will tell ODPP, this one yes, this one no. And that's very, very wrong. So we still have a way to go when it comes to ensuring that those in power do not abuse it by getting these institutions to serve them instead of us, the people.
Okay. In that case, I'll ask Dr. Baraza. Given now that the situation, what she has explained, do Kenyans have a practical access to the justice system and to justice, or should we say that the executive now has an upper hand on what goes on what rights they are actually entitled to actualize?
I think we have a robust constitution. We have rights guaranteed. We have institutions which are mandated to make those rights realizable. I think our question should be, are those institutions working? Is the judiciary working? Is it a place where people are accessing justice? And if you look at it, you look at the Chief Justice's agenda under her social transformation framework, she's trying to avail justice to all Kenyans, especially the marginalized. So the institutions are there. I really didn't get what her issue was. I haven't followed much to understand that newly formed outfit is, but probably it is a reflection or a realization that institutions charged with mandates to do certain or to carry out certain mandates, maybe they are not doing it. I don't know if that was the reason, but I would say the Constitution gives us a good framework for good governance, a good framework for protection of human rights, a good framework and institutions to oversee the protection and promotion of those rights guaranteed in the Constitution. So we don't lack the protections. We don't lack the institutions. I think it is implementation of the Constitution that we are not really doing.
So, Mr. Kimanthi, so the question then becomes, how do we then enable these institutions to work? Because we cannot say that a creation of multi-agency teams is the solution, where we have a whole institutions created to deal with particular issues. So how do we actually make these institutions work?
Thank you. I think there are two ways to go about it. One of the challenges, and I think I come from the side of the constitutional bodies, the constitutional commissions. And particularly for my commission, the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights, one of the ways, I don't know whether it is deliberate or it is by design, or somebody just wants to set some institutions not to do what they're supposed to do. When you have institutions which are grossly under-resourced, then enforcing the provisions of this constitution will definitely be a challenge. For instance, in the current financial year, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights wanted something like close to 1 billion, which is still not even adequate to support all our programs and also support 7 regional offices. We got less than half of what we had requested for, 400 and something million. And I'm pretty sure that when they will be doing the revisions for the budgets, chances are high that they are going to reduce those figures. So what does that mean? That an institution which is so critical to enforce the most elaborate chapter of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Chapter 4, then we won't be able to do what we are supposed to do. I've also listened to, and I'm not here to speak on their behalf, I've listened to what institutions like IPOA and others are going through, and therefore for me, unless we properly resource these institutions, then they will not be able to do what they're supposed to do as provided for by the Constitution. But I also want to shift the ball to the other side. As Kenyans, because Albert Einstein said that a constitution can be as strong as the majority of its citizens when they support it. And therefore, the citizens of this country then play a very critical role in ensuring that the constitution, works. And one of the things is definitely to defend the constitution. We've had instances where suggestions here and there that we need to do constitutional amendments, some funny suggestions that we need to increase, timelines for some, positions and all that. Clawbacks in terms of what my sister said, forming, task forces and bodies, to do what our constitutional bodies are, supposed to do. And therefore, for us as citizens of this nation, we must rise up and, say that this should not be allowed to go on. I think Madam Gikonyo spoke about this in the morning. The other thing is also to occupy and defend our civic spaces. I think for those of us who, and I'm really happy to see my lawyer, Kibe Mungai here, that for those of us who dared, to say that we needed this constitution, and I suffered consequences, and Kibe represented me. Thank you so much. And I just reflect that really when we wanted this constitution, one of the things I remember when I got this invitation was, do you remember the People's Commission? When we started, demanding and, working towards getting a new constitution, even when we didn't have, the mandate. And I remember, going collecting views, not knowing where to take because we didn't have the mandate. But 15 years later, here we are. Then the other thing is, of course, we must hold leaders accountable. Some of the statements that, we see our leaders in parliament and these houses that they occupy, the things that they are doing, the constitution is very, very clear in terms of, chapter 6, where we having leaders going against, provisions of the constitution. When people say that you can go out there, you can shoot to kill, no, at times don't kill, shoot just the legs and all that, and those people continue occupying big offices. It's very wrong. And I think also based on what Madam Gikonyo said in the morning, that it's a pity that this kind of impunity is actually supported by professionals. That you see somebody, justifying that for citizens, for young people who are using provisions of the constitution to demand for their rights, that they can be branded and be charged with terrorism. That is very, very unfortunate. That professionals can give wrong advice to this regime, it's very, very wrong. Then the last one is we must support legal and judicial processes. That the institutions here, LSK, every other institution, can we have as many legal processes as possible? That when a multi-agency team to fight, I don't know, whatever, corruption, that, is formed, can we have as many people, as many lawyers, as many institutions going to court, to challenge that? Is it also possible to demand also for accountability, even from our own institutions, including the constitutional commissions that are not delivering? Because that way, for instance, if you demand for accountability from the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights, you'll actually give me the platform to explain that I'm under-resourced and I'm not able to do what I'm supposed to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Msengeti, as a follow-up now, we know that the media plays a very important role in ensuring that there's a rule of law. And also demonstrations also are part of it, and they are guaranteed, and they're a form of keeping the executive in check. But we have seen situations where they have been limited, the demonstrations have been declared illegal, media houses have been shut down. So as looking at the civil society and us as professionals, how can we ensure that the media and the people are enabled to actually be able to safeguard the implementation of the rule of law?
I love that question. It's very personal to me. I'll tell you why. Last week, I have the platform Let's Talk Law Kenya, where I share legal insights and knowledge and whatnot. So the X page, which has about 13,000 followers, had quite some traction last week because of threads I shared about the Conflict of Interest Act. I had 5 threads on it. By the time I shared thread 4, thread 2 had really spread. While I was drafting thread 5, my account got suspended. Why? Because as I came to learn later, some forces have eyes on people throughout nowadays, and they sent, it was either a team of human people, agents, or they used bots to report that account en masse, such that now my account was considered spam. But upon appealing, the ex-support team, so they had done nothing wrong, my account was reinstated in record time. I am just a small account, and I am an advocate of the High Court. You would expect that to give you some sort of protection, but it does not. So many of my peers, advocates or not, are trying their best to educate each other about the law, about our rights, about the Constitution, about good governance. But we get shut down everywhere, no matter what platform you use. They make sure before you even get your message across, you're shut down. If that is happening to people who are, so to speak, down there, and we are seeing it happening to the big media houses that we thought are untouchable, it raises a very big question mark. Where are we headed? If the big ones can't talk, if we can't even communicate with each other down here, it's blackout, and it is coming in a way that we do not even fathom by the time we get to the next election. My account was already being messed with last year during the protests. I qualified to get into the payment program for X. They said no. Why? You're using bots. I said, bots where? When the same thing happened last week is when it clicked. That is why, because it was around the time of protest, and of course I was very vocal digitally. So there is a very big problem when it comes to freedom of expression and freedom of the media. The media is literally the oxygen to any democracy. You cannot say you have democracy if your media is suppressed. Who is keeping the leadership in check? The media is our #1 tool to get our message across to them the same way they get their message across to us. The Constitution guarantees this freedom, and it's unfortunate that we have witnessed the leadership completely have no regard for this provision of the Constitution. Now, us as professionals, when we see these things happening, the first thing, which we don't even have to spend money on, is to speak up. With my small account, the moment I got back, I doubled down. Because you see, I started Let's Talk Law Kenya as something out of passion, and also as a way to diversify what I can do as an advocate. We already have limited employment opportunities. You come straight out of school, the world is looking at you the same way you're looking at it, and you're both asking each other, alafu sasa. So I started that as a way to say, okay, I think we can do different things as lawyers. So that has given me opportunities. For the government to come and shut that down, that was very personal. First of all, you've locked me out of so many opportunities because of corruption, because of bad leadership, because of bad governance. And then when I try to build something, you're putting me down. I was radicalized last week. Now it's personal. The media up front needs to also engage the citizens, because sometimes it feels like they're on their own, we're on our own, they're facing their problems. Oh, oops, they've been shut off. Hey, that's so bad. I hope they come back. When us guys, someone like me and others are shut down, they don't even know. And when they do, they're like, small people, even if we say their story, who's gonna know? That's not gonna give us views. So everyone has to, we have to now reach out to each other. Professionals, speak up, keep reminding the leadership of the constitutional provisions we have to protect these freedoms, and keep insisting until these provisions are adhered to. When it comes to protests, there's, I want to say it's Article 24, but I stand guided, that says you cannot limit the rights guaranteed by the Constitution without justifiable reason. And I remember looking at this provision when I was looking through the new healthcare laws when they were enacted, the 4-in-1 pack. And I saw that when this law would be enacted, it would limit and or interfere with a number of rights: the right to equity, the right to healthcare, the right to privacy, and no reason had been given for this, which is why I knew the court would stop the implementation. And that happened sometime last year. But since then, we haven't seen any rectification or proper public engagement on those provisions and what has been done to rectify that. This constitutional provision says that if the government is going to limit any right, including our right to assemble, they have to give very good reason to justify this limitation. We have not seen that reason. So far, it is mainly to contain and stop the spread of this momentum for this revolution. So unless the government says, oh, when you guys come, the ground breaks, everyone sinks, the country can't go on, and we all see, and yeah, the ground breaks, everyone sinks, the country can't go on, let's not demonstrate. But if it's just to make the leadership feel less anxious about how the country is feeling, that's not good enough reason.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Kimanthi, given all these things we're talking about, because it seems like we have an executive that is actually overreaching on its powers. So what areas of reform as a country, what areas should be concentrated, should be prioritized for reform as we go forward to ensure that the rule of law is actually there and that the Constitution is actualized as was intended?
Thank you. I think the reforms that we need as a country, first, is actually a relook at, the provisions of the Constitution. For me, reforms will begin from there. That for us to reform, we must go back to what the Constitution says. Because if we follow the Constitution to the letter, the provisions given, then the reforms will come out automatically. For me, that's the starting point. Two, we must ensure that accountability in everything that we do as a state, as a country, is given prominence. That for us, to have reforms, we need a situation whereby everybody who is given a responsibility by the same constitution is held to account. The reason why the culture of impunity is so entrenched in this country is because we live in a situation whereby people have in the past done very bad things and nothing seems, never to happen. And that's why people have the audacity to keep on repeating, things like theft in electoral processes, because they know that, we'll steal elections, it's something that has been happening, no action has ever been taken. Issues to do with corruption. Why we are not reforming is because people started stealing thousands. Nothing was done. We came to hundreds of thousands. Nothing done. Millions. Nothing done. Nowadays, have you realized that even when you read in the media, that our threshold for corruption in this country is now in terms of billions? That now, pronouncing a billion in terms of, losses within the government, is something that we've normalized. That you read the newspapers and you see that this institution has lost 1.2 billion, 9.6 billion cannot be accounted for. And then we say, that is normal. Again, for me, that is not normal. We need to reform. Allow me to stop at that point.
Okay, so Dr. Baraza, you will have the last word for us. So can we say then that the laws that are there, either is it that they are not, the punishment that is there is not adequate, or that the culture is so ingrained that we are looking for, we are okay as long as we are the ones eating, but when someone else is eating, we are complaining, but when it's our turn, we are very much okay.
I don't know who is eating and who is complaining. I think I came here to talk about the Constitution.
Yes.
Okay? And what I see is lack of implementation.
Yes.
Of the robust Constitution that we have. We have institutions to check on corruption. Okay? Are they functional? And I think the gentleman said they are underfunded, they have issues. Okay? It doesn't mean that the Constitution is bad. Probably because of lack of sufficient funding, they are not operating optimally. If you come to institutions like government, like parliament, okay, the checks and balances, maybe we are not doing it well because, again, we are abusing the Constitution. Otherwise, I think the very essence of the struggle for the new Constitution was to have those checks and balances, was to have and respect the principle of separation of powers. So if we are having a problem there, which I think is real, it is not because the Constitution is bad. It's because we are not implementing it well, we are not respecting our mandates as institutions. As Parliament, what is your role? That is problematic. Okay? As judiciary, what is your role? Is it doing the right thing as an institution for delivery of justice? I think that should be the question. And what I'm saying is we have a robust constitution, we have institutions of governance within that constitution, but they are not functioning optimally. That is what I would say. Otherwise, I think our rights are guaranteed. Our democratic institutions are well entrenched. So what is the problem? And where do we move from there? I think when our rights to information are infringed, we must continue to go to court. We must continue to how else can we realize them? To look for ways of ensuring that our rights are respected. Okay, otherwise they are there in the Constitution. Abductions, arbitrary arrests, the Constitution outlaws all of those. So what should we do to ensure that our rights as guaranteed in the Bill of Rights, in the Constitution, are realized, are protected, are promoted? I think for me that is the problem.
Thank you. So thank you to our panelists. I think we have come to the end of this particular session.